Hey there, TNA fam! We're back here at the impzonepod podcast again to talk more TNA wrestling shenanigans. Again, I feel like we have to check in with what's happening with the women's tag team championships because this upcoming week on NXT, the Elegance brand is defending those titles against Zoruka. Now, I wouldn't normally talk about these sorts of things that much because again, you start to feel like, well, the Elegance brand has just won these belts. Why the frick would they lose these belts at this point or whatever else it is? But this is ADHD WWE booking, so anything can friggin' happen. And we know anything can happen in the world of professional wrestling, but again, it's just one of those things of saying, again, well, what, like I've said this a few times, well, why would you, have, here you have, again, I'll just put it back to simplistic booking. They're going to take, if they're going to take the titles, then show up on TNA, are people really going to resound them as good baby faces that much? Like I said this with a few other things. It's like, if you have our titles and you aren't a part of our brand and you're gonna show up once in a blue moon or whatever it is, or perhaps maybe for some stupid reason somehow WWE doesn't see the value in them or just doesn't know what to do with them, then it's like, oh, okay, cool, we get to get them for a little while. That's kind of cool, but, at the end of the day, if you're saying for a booking standpoint, you say, okay, well, what would that do for them? Or what would that do for the women that are in the TNA Knockouts division? It wouldn't do anything because there's basically hardly anyone in that division to start with. So it's like, well, why would, to an extent, obviously, again, it starts becoming like, why would we care? But again, WWE shouldn't take our belts. That's our belts. Yes, to say, oh, yes, we can put your guys over or whatever else it is, but what for? Who would you put over? There's no one really in that division to put over, so what's the point in doing it? You know what I mean? Just a hot potato the titles and then, get them to somebody else later down the line or whatever else it is. And again, if you're going to say, oh, well, this is what we're going to do, this is what we're going to do, we are going to put the belts on them and then they're going to lose them in a few months or whatever else it is. What? They're, I don't know, maybe they will be accepted as baby faces in TNA, I don't know. But realistically, if they win and when they get beat, can you see that as a babyface moment? You know what I mean? It just does not make any sense. It makes no sense for babyfaces to beat, somebody and then be like, oh, look, we've got your titles or whatever else it is. Only makes sense for you to be heels. You know what I mean? Never makes sense for a babyface to really win these things. So, I will be super surprised if they win them, but that's the thing. I understand why sometimes you say, oh, well, we've got to throw a curveball or whatever else it is so people aren't, just going, oh, man, these are predictable, aren't they, type thing, or whatever else it is. But, I've said this before as well. I said, I think it's the the WWE guys, the NXT guys, have won every TNA championship apart from the TNA tag titles and the TNA women's tag titles now, right? So those are the only titles that haven't been won by NXT superstars or whatever. So again, I said, I've said this before, the women's tag division in TNA is one of the least represented divisions and has been for a long time. So it's one of those things of saying, wow, we've got nothing else going on for you type thing. And it's the same thing for WWE. I don't want to, just poo-poo on TNA's, title division there. But it is one of those things of saying, well, it's so poor because, like, again, and I understand, like I've said this before, where it's like, it's a very different division, which is good because, like, I do feel people get more or less annoyed more so with people being like given more of a mid-card title or a different title rather than the world title. It feels like just a consolation prize or whatever else it is, or it feels like we're just having this stopgap sort of thing before that. It doesn't feel like this was like the thing that anybody wanted realistically. Why would you want this belt? Like, type thing. That's always seemingly been the problem for a long time. The prestige of these belts has gone down, 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 and the problem is it's like to reintroduce that level of prestige takes a lot of work. And yeah, it takes a lot of mind shift setting sort of thing. So you've got to shift people's minds on how prestigious these things are. So you've got to have a good 6 months, year worth of good stuff. Then you've got to have every single year be as good as that. You can't, at least, like, you can't go back to being like, maybe you can have one or two little reigns here or there where it's like, oh, that didn't pan out or whatever else it is, or such got signed to WWE or whatever else it was or whatnot. This is what happened, that is what happened, yada 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 yada. But the Knockouts tag team titles have, like, I don't want to say they've been a joke, but they've been mostly a joke. Like, I say the same thing for WWE's women's tag team titles. They've been mostly a joke. Like, and I again feel like WWE has like too many belts, like way too many belts, like just way too many things that are going on for people to be like trying to care about. And if you want a mid-card title to be cared about, then you need to be like, no, we need to focus in on the best version, or the most, like, important version of this. We need the most, all the women that are not going in the world title division or the heavyweight title division or whatever, the main event scene that we want to build up or we think are, good at building other people up, we're putting in here. So Lyra, Valkyrie, and Chelsea, and like everybody else that's kind of like in that position, I think, should be going for that title, or one of those mid card titles. I think the same thing for like the women's like main event scene. Like, focus down, get one belt. I get the idea of saying, well, that takes away something from somebody else or whatever else it is if you don't have two titles. Well, now you do have two titles. You have a mid-card title and you have a world title, You have the main event title and the mid-card title. So you're not taking anything away from somebody. You're just saying, hey, let's try to elevate them with this mid-card title, or let's try to elevate somebody or do something else with somebody. And then when you are doing something with somebody, you're mitigated to saying, hey, let's do the best thing that we can do, instead of saying, oh, well, we want to do this thing, but we don't know whether we can do this thing or whatever else it is, because, like, it's not quite as good as what we're doing over here, but we still kind of want to do it, Well, how, like, instead of saying, oh, well, we'll put it in the other world title division, and whatnot, and see how it goes. Instead of doing that, okay, cool, we'll test it out in the mid card or whatever, So, primes you to say, no, we've got to do the best thing possible with this thing, and every woman in the company is vying for this title. We have more, or whatever, more women to work with, more stories to work with. Now that there's one title and there's one person that can be the top person, rather than dividing the rosters and saying, hey, you've only got this prize or that prize to go for. And again, like I say, like their decision of saying, hey, more mid card titles again is like for the men as well is like, whoa, again, you've just got too many things going on where it's like too many. That's why neither of the titles feels very, very high caliber, because it's like, oh, we're not trying to make either one the title that people should focus in and care about in that mid-card division. Now you've got the US belt, now you've got the Intercontinental. It's like, which belt should I care about? Both? Neither? Yes. Okay, great. Because, like, again, if you're not got things for me to latch onto that are decently good and strong and whatnot, and there's a real good focus on it, and all the focus is in on that, then it's like, well, why would I care? Like, because like, I'm not gonna care. Like, people don't care. Like, I don't care about these belts because most people don't care about these belts, but I still don't think WWE should have them. That's the point, like, I guess, that I'm driving at with all of that, is to say, hey, just because these belts haven't done anything, and maybe they should be retired. I don't know. I've said that so many times, but it's like, we've had some good teams here and there, absolutely, but there's been so many just like Franken teams and whatnot, that sort of thing, and that's just not what, sort of, you can say some teams are like somewhat Franken teams or whatever, but again, like, it's tough to sort of say, so it's like, where should it be? Why should it be? That sort of thing. That is one positive in some way with TNA, but like, I think the international title division is sort of like somewhat served its purpose in some ways. Like, realistically, like, at a certain point, like, I think, like, as well, like, you should have had Steve Macklin challenge Trick Williams at some point, or whatever, something like that, or something like, champion versus champion, maybe, I don't know, but yeah, I don't know, but yeah, like, I still think that, what would you say? Like, it's the belt of, like, the thing that's like, now it's starting to lose a lot of relevance. Like, yes, it is on an NXT superstar, so it's like, oh, okay, cool. Now, like, we can really sort of just about forget about it to an extent, to a degree, because it is on an NXT superstar. So it is very much like, yeah, let's just forget about that. To an extent, it is our belt, but like, does anyone really care? And I mean, maybe to an extent, the TNA title is needed for the story that they're trying to kind of tell there, because it is all about like Stax and Santino, and like, I think it's a story that perhaps they felt like, oh, we could try to tell this with the world title division. But I think people would, like, literally riot at that point of saying, like, here's Stax wins the world title. Like, I think people are already a bit miffed by having, like, a guy that was just, like, only a few weeks ago, and even, like, had sometimes, been, like, a guy who basically just was a jobber and didn't really do anything and didn't really have much going for him. And maybe it's like I said, like, you could say, hey, he gets one of the NXT titles, but then it's like, so what? He gets one of the mid-card NXT titles. There's no real story there for TNA, like, with him dating Ariana or whatever. So the idea there is to be like, somebody's, got to come and win this thing off of him, like, again, sort of thing. But, like, it doesn't really work because like that this is the problem of saying it's a mid-card title. Yes, Steve Macklin did a whole lot to try, and a lot of other people tried their hardest to get that thing over the line, so to speak. But it's like a really difficult position to be in because there are so many other titles that are so much more important in the company that it's like, and I understand what they're trying to do. They're trying to be like, hey, let's elevate this guy, let's give him a title. Well, we can't really give him one of our titles, and that's again another problem as being like, oh, we don't know what to do with him or whatever. Like this is one of the things I would say about like if they were to keep some of the other titles, like some of the other mid-card titles, bring some of those other mid-card titles down to NXT. You know, like I don't know which ones. I don't really care. That's up to them or whatever they want to do or whatnot. So that there is a, you know, you have it equal. Like you have like one mid-card title, you have one world title, you have one women's title, you have one women's mid-card title, you have one set of tag titles each. So there's like several titles on the main roster, and that's it. Like that's all you have. Like that's all the prizes that there are to get in the main roster. And then in the NXT roster, it's the same thing. You've got one set of world titles each, you've got one set of mid-card titles each, you've got one set of tag team titles each. That's it. Those are the prizes. You know, like, and yes, you can, like, having a title from another brand or whatever else, you know, changes the numbers and the mixture. But, like, when you say, hey, this is from the other brand or the other show, TNA, you know, like, okay, cool, great. You know, like, yeah, that's a little bit different. You know, like, the perspective changes a little bit where it's like, you know, why is this or how is this, you know, like, important? Oh, because it's from another promotion. It's not our title. You know, the same with the AAA title. It's like, oh, that's not our title. That's a AAA title. It carries a little bit more like, oh, you know, like we've got one of their belts kind of thing, whatever. But again, and I have to keep sort of coming back to this. We shouldn't be reliant on WWE. Like we shouldn't. And like I like the sort of the story that they're trying to tell in some ways, but like the story, the end of that story, if it doesn't end with Santino winning the belt, like what are you doing? Because that's who Ariana's betrayed and all of this. Maybe you could say, well, she kind of betrayed Macklin. Kind of. She's kind of betrayed TNA. Kind of. I don't know. I mean, you could always find somebody else to win that belt too. You could always deactivate that belt because is it really needed? That's the thing. It's like, you know, again, like there's so many other prizes. There's the X Division title, which, you know, like sort of competes for it in some ways of being like, you know, sometimes it is that vehicle to be like, let's launch somebody into the next level or whatever, you know. It's not just a cruiserweight title, you know, whatever people want to say that it is or whatever. It's not just a lower card title, you know, like it needs to be a title of, you know, something that people can fight for and can utilize to, you know, get to the next level or get to the next stage or whatever else it is. So it's like, oh, okay, you know, this person is getting to that next level. And like, we've seen that sometimes, you know, like now that person is starting to feel like they're in the mix of getting these sorts of things. So I feel like, again, like you might be saying with this, it's like, well, like, again, do these two people need it? Do they have a story for it? Like, are they going to tease a breakup or whatever else it is? Like, I don't know. Like, I think both of them are just great single stars that could be doing some amazing stuff, challenging for some mid-card title or even like the world title. Like I think I think Soul actually was like in a fatal four-way there a while back, wasn't she? Something like that. I don't know. I'm not paying any attention really to NXT. If I hear something, I hear something. If I see something, I see something. I'm not going to tune into this thing. I don't care because, yep, I just don't care because, again, like, it's on free TV as well. So, like, yeah, sure, that's somewhat, like, cool in some ways. You get to see this match for free or whatever else it is, not on pay-per-view in some ways, but I feel like it's sort of a missed opportunity. You should have built it up a lot more and said, oh, okay, it is going to be on pay-per-view, or it is at least going to be on a, weekly special or whatever else it is. And I said before, maybe TNA should copy that model of saying, let's just have weekly specials, like have the monthly special, whatever, no, not weekly special, but it's on a weekday, a regular weekday of just TNA Impact, but it's now 3 hours long or whatever else it is. I don't know. But yeah, like, certainly if something comes out of it, we'll talk about it, but like, I also start to wonder, like, if you were to say they have the belts, like I say, it's like that division is so lackluster in many ways, and I think it would be better off served by having, like, again, we don't know the circumstances. Maybe they'll be there every week and whatever else it is, I don't know, but like, it would be better, even if they don't have many plans for it, and even if it's going to be the bottom of the barrel sort of stuff, to the extent it's like, well, yeah, at least they're there every week or whatever else it is to do their thing, and somebody else could get an opportunity to beat the Elegance brand or whatever else it is, which is, kind of interesting, I think, or more interesting than, hey, we haven't seen those belts in freaking forever, or we haven't seen the people that, they're on in forever. Wonder what's happening there, like to an extent that happens anyway sometimes, where it's like, oh, we just didn't have plans, or we don't have any teams, or we don't know what we're doing, so like, oh well, whatever, or they just didn't factor in to our plans, so we just forgot about them. That's the thing. Like, that's been the problem for a long time, where it's just like, we kind of have to do this, and whatever, okay, all right, we'll throw something together at the last minute, whatever, but yeah, nah. I am certainly on the fence of saying, or on the side of the fence saying, hey, nothing's gonna happen. If it does, I'm gonna be like, oh my god, what are you doing? What are you doing? At that point, like I said, maybe you just say, at least all these titles are vacated. Or all these titles are deactivated, dude. Because at a certain point, like, who cares? Who cares? Like, really, who cares? So I don't know, and that's the problem of it. It's like, wow, you've taken a title that, basically no one was doing nothing with, and now you're taking it and doing even less with it. Great, wow, whoop-de-doo, whoopee, with a makeshift tag team. Woo, woohoo, wow, you've done it. You've done the thing. Woo. Slow down, WWE. What a push you've given to those two people that, to say, oh yes, you're truly the bottom of the barrel. We don't know what else to do with you. Good luck, bye. That's the thing. Like, same with TNA of having to agree to it. Wow. We just agreed to say you don't matter, even as much as what you have before. because now you have belts that are fairly irrelevant. Woohoo! Well done. You know what I mean? Ah, man, that's the problem with like a lot of these things. They haven't been taken seriously, and they haven't really invested enough into saying, okay, we're gonna get some teams, and we're gonna get serious with those teams. Like the same thing I have to say about some of the teams in the men's division, like Sinner and Saint. I like Sinner and Saint. They're kind of cool, but like I think, what's his name? Is it Icarus? The one with like the crazy hair and whatever. He's kind of got it for me. He's got something, and I could see him being like a good X Division star for a bit or whatever. And then maybe even a mid card guy or whatever else. Maybe in a if you find the right story, and if you build him up right and things like that. And then maybe like later on you could see him in the world title division. The other guy, I just don't really see a whole lot in. Like, unfortunately, he's got some talent, I guess, but it just character-wise and charisma-wise, like, it just isn't there for me. And maybe it is for other people, but I don't really see the they're not, like I say, yes, everyone's got to have a role, but you've got enough jobber tag teams, or you can have enough other people be jobbers to the stars effectively. So I don't see the point in just having them there. And again, like, you've brought in, what's his name? The Andersons. Like, what are they doing? Like, they haven't even had, I think they've had some explosion matches, but, like, are they even gonna really, like, wrestle on TV? Like, what are they there for? You know what I mean? Like, and they've had a few, like, other indie guys and gals, like, kind of appear on Explosion and do stuff, like, for a night or two, whatever else it is. And, I just don't know. I just feel like, oh, man, let's just, like, maybe there is, like, they're saying, hey, well, it's got to be the right fit for me or whatever, and I want to keep my options open, and I might want to go to AEW, or I might want to go to WWE. So do I really want to sink a year into being in TNA? I don't know. But I do think, like, yes, you can get discovered on the indies, but if you've been on the indies for more than 5 or 6, or even more than a couple of years, and WWE hasn't come calling, dude, it's time to say, okay, right, let's explore other options. Same with AEW. Okay, I've been on the indies for a few years. Has AEW ever called me? No, they've never called me. Or they've never called my management. Okay, cool, great. TNA is calling me now, right? Okay, well, I want to keep my options open, so maybe I'll sign for a year. Like, just sign for a year. AEW's never called me. WWE has never called me, or whatever. Now TNA has called me and said, hey, do you want to come and work for us? We'll put you on for a 1-year contract or whatever. Okay, cool. Why not? Let's do it. Like, that's what I mean. That's got to be, like, your perspective on things. Like, even if it's not your, like, oh, wow, I'm so happy to go to TNA or whatever. No, but at least, like, even if you're not super jazzed about it, like, be like, oh, man, okay, cool. Let's make a big splash here in TNA. Let's do some cool things. Let's establish ourselves, or like same for a singles guy or whatever else it is. Okay, TNA's called me. No one else has called me, and they've never been interested, seemingly. So, hey, right, well, I might as well go there. They'll offer me some good money, and I can still do some of my other indie dates and whatever else, and that sort of thing. But, like, maybe it'll, get me in the eyes of AEW or WWE. I don't know. Again, with the partnership with WWE, with TNA, they might be like, hey, this team, they're pretty good. Whatever. Or same with the singles guy. Like, maybe AEW has called you, but maybe they like, you've looked at their roster and gone, yeah, people debut there and then get lost in the shuffle and then get forgotten about. And they have so many people, and maybe, yes, if I really just want to go there and say, hey, I'm earning an extra bit of money for myself. That's cool. That's great. You know, that, like, I understand that, but it's like, again, like, for me, I wouldn't want to go there and just be like, oh, yeah, I'm just collecting a paycheck, but they don't really use me. Or if they use me, it's like, just, like, on their D show where it's like, oh, we just take losses. We don't really do anything. We don't really have a story. You know, like, so, like, yeah, sure, if you say, oh, well, you know, maybe something will come up, but, like, and you got to be happy to be like, oh man, we're getting an opportunity or whatever, something in some regards. But it's like, dude, like, at least give us the chance to show you, hey, we, you know, besides giving us like a 5-minute match, give us a 20-minute match. Let us show you, hey, we can go and we can put on some bangers or whatever else it is. You know, give us the right opponent, give us the right story, you know, that sort of thing, you know, like, or whatever. I wouldn't do that. Like, same for WWE, unfortunately. They have so many people. So Worker are just a perfect example of that in some ways. They don't even know what they're doing with them. Like, it's crazy to me. Absolutely crazy. Why would you have, like, if TNA had Sol Ruka and Zarya on their roster, like, they'd be main event, semi-main event players. Like, even if you say, oh, well, that's because TNA doesn't have anybody, or whatever, or it's their big fish, or whatever, in a little pond, so to speak, or whatever. Yes, to some extent, but, like, it's so much easier. Again, maybe yes, because they have fewer people in some regards, but, like, again, this is the whole thing of, we've got to make whoever we've got work for what the divisions that we've got. We cannot sit here and say, oh, well, you know, well, like, maybe for somebody that is brand new, and we don't know that they're quite at that level yet, or quite, like, have that connection yet, or whatever else it is, or whatnot, or the story isn't there, or the timing isn't there, or whatever it is, that will get there, or whatever. Hey, okay, mid-card title, or whatever, something else. Let's do something with you to, you know, build you up and showcase you and give you a story and, you know, go from there. You know, but, like, mostly, like, not to say, hey, we should just, like, again, like, I hate that whole, we give WWE guys or gals or whatever a title shot immediately. That shouldn't be the way of it. Like, that's the problem now as well. It's like, oh, you know, Stax got that title shot, but it was, like, through nefarious means and whatnot, like, or whatever else it was, and through Ariana, like, basically pushing her, like, future husband into the picture or whatever. But yeah, like, it is like, that shouldn't be the thing that TNA does just because it's like, oh, we have a WWE guy, we'll strap the rocket to him. You know, no, like, they have to prove themselves. Like, they have to be here, they have to put in the hours, they have to put in the time. It has to work and it has to make sense. And, like, we can't just rely on them being a superstar. We have to say, okay, cool, they're a superstar, but hey, we need to move along from them. We need to build our own new superstars, and we need to give them the opportunities to develop and grow and showcase themselves and you know, be here and be the guy. You know, like, they need to be, you know, even if they're gonna leave, like, oh well, too bad. Like, that's what happens. Like, again, but it gives opportunities for other people to be like, oh, now I can climb the ladder. Now I can climb the ladder. You know, like, sort of thing. You know, if you hadn't had, or maybe you might say, well, if you hadn't have some of these other people leave, that some of these other people wouldn't get their opportunity. But thing is, it's like, well, they might have still got their opportunity, but at least you might have that other person like Josh Alexander or whoever else still on the roster to be like, hey, we can still go up again. They can still build stories around, this guy and him chasing whoever it is out on top or whatever else, in whatever role it is, So I think that would have been so cool, like, if that had happened, but like it just didn't. And I think, like, again, maybe he was like, oh man, maybe it's time to go somewhere and do something else. But like, I think he, like, in many ways, like, made the wrong choice. But that's up to him, dude. And I hope for the best success for him. Same for Ace Austin. Like, I think he was like, oh man, I've been in the same position for like 4 or 5 years or whatever it's been. Time to do something else, time to do something different. Hey, dude, you're going to be in the same lower position than what you were. Maybe you're earning a bit more money or whatever else it is, but you're probably not going to peak over there, honestly. Like, sorry to say that. Like, it's not you, and I'm not saying it's you. It's AEW, dude. They haven't done hardly anything with anyone forever. They've had a lot of people that have been on their roster for ages, done nothing with, So again, nothing against you personally. You could be so great, and again, maybe you'll be there for a while. Who knows? Like, Santana went there, and we were like, oh man, that sucks. Hope he does well. It didn't turn out very well. He didn't do anything. Came back to TNA and was like, okay, let's hit the road and let's go. Maybe he'll go there. Maybe he'll get a bit of experience. Maybe something like that. He'll come back and be like, all right, I'm sick of, like, having nothing happen. I've got to be the champion. I've got to be the champion. It's time to do this thing, So, yeah, but anyway, yeah, I just don't know with this thing. But yeah, we'll wait and see, I suppose. So anyway, guys, I hope you've enjoyed this one. Hope you join me again in another one.